Hello, this is David Cruz, and I am recording for the Boog City 15 Festival. Dear Dimitri, Reyes, and David Kirschenbach, thank you so much for having me. I'm taping here from southern Vermont, what are ancestral lands of Mohican and Abenaki peoples. And I thought I would maybe start off and read a poem by an Abenaki poet named Joseph Bouchak. It's titled Geese Flying Over a Prison Sweat Lodge. Inside an arch like that of the sky, unlike that arch of mortared stone with razor wire on top, which we walk beneath to find freedom within concrete. Inside the shell of the old turtle, inside the body of our mother, inside our memories waiting to be born again, we hear the sound of flock after flock, their ancient calls of welcome and question, seeking relatives after a winter's exile. Hiss of water on stone and the cries of the geese bark and answer, their touch deep as bone, speaking words never written that always mean home. For today, I'm going to read only one long poem of my own. It's from a recent project called Writing the Land, which you can find at writingtheland.org. And you could also visit my website, davidcruzpoetry.com, and there is a section at the top for Writing the Land. It's a project that looks to pair poets with protected lands, and I got the opportunity to work with the Agrarian Trust, and they helped, in the last year, they helped preserve some farmland for a group of Somali refugees living up in Wales, Maine, and they too have a nonprofit called the Somali Bantu Community Association. And I got the chance on October 24th of last year to meet with Muhuddin Libda, who runs the organization there. And this poem, Liberation Farm, which is the title of their farm, is what came from it. Liberation Farm. 1. When I pulled onto the land that now is and will become the site for the new Somali Bantu Community Farm here in Wales, Muhuddin was feeding goats. They were facing different directions like leaves piled near him among scatterings of carrots, celery, lettuces. There are no crops here yet. The rolling field of 107 acres that ends in a distant ridge colored by Maine's autumn trees will support over 200 Somali farmers and their families. How Muhuddin came to live here has the distance of a story and sounds like the story of many in the Bantu community. A refugee at the age of 7, he remembers walking 2 months on a road flooded with families in flight through the desert, the only food that which they could carry. 2. As we walk the land, I wonder if Muhuddin is aware what bird species here are in decline. Will he know how to handle black bears? He scoffs at the berry-filled scat. Back where I come from, he tells me, the dogs would eat you if they could, and he does not laugh. The goats from inside their pen watch us walk by the site where future greenhouses will be built to grow vegetables Somali farmers know. Okra, a squash called katito, a type of kidney bean called dajir, and an African eggplant, kureri. He says there are even some local businesses who want their flint corn. Then helps me spell daily. Grown 4 seeds, sown 6 feet apart, with squash, beans, carrots nestled between. Haudenosaunee peoples tell stories of 3 sisters. We are standing on ancestral lands of Algonquin tribes, those who have come to dialects of Abenaki, Kennebec, Narantsuak, Orosaguntukuk. Gunshots suddenly fire through neighboring woods, and without any hunter orange, we turn and walk back to the road. 3. Muhuddin was 7 when General Howe visited his elementary class under a tent in the desert, promised they would return to their homes soon. This part of the UN task force movies speak of. But violence in and around his village in Middle Juba raged and powerful tribes took over. Somalis, he tells me, live in Kenya and Ethiopia too. It was colonists who took land, drew borders. His country, for as long as he remembers, one of violence. Muhuddin lived in a refugee camp for 20 years. 4. One of the goats rises with big, watchful eyes, puts front hooves on the fence. Without looking, Muhuddin strokes the goat's neck. Traditional Somali farming is farming by hand, and back home, he says, they do not compost. The growing season, a full 9 months. After the monsoons come, when the river floods and the farm fields fill rich with nutrient. 5. The land here in Wales now proves the 3rd property this community has tried to purchase. Lands for sale in the past suddenly no longer for them. There are possibilities here, Muhuddin tells me. The land large enough to support not just the farmers and their families, but the hope to have excess food beyond crops they donate locally. And a farm stand, a store here on site, and perhaps a catering business. A beige goat with dark ears picks up a carrot and grinds it to meal. This time, he says, the local community in Wales gave great support. And now, here, on this new land, they will get to celebrate Eid twice a year without permit. How unfamiliar these terms: rent, lease, property. Back home, Somaliland is not owned or sold, and when a traveler arrives at a new village, that person is actually given a plot, both to farm and raise a family. Muhuddin tells me of traditional Somali dances, sometimes in chants, sometimes speaking tongues, negotiations with spirit. It is both departure and arrival. Sharo, Sharo, Borain. 6. Muhuddin tells me he could be killed for returning to his village, having acquired too much education. He will always be a refugee. His work serving the Bantu Association now comes upon 15 years. The land here, he says, brings great joy to their community. How an excitement these days travels among the groups like whispers. How the idea of land and their connection to it is so intimately planted into a presence of mind and body. I marvel at the energy the earth brings. Before leaving, I thank Muhuddin for his time, for meeting me. It was no problem. Pleased to, he says. I'd be here for my goats. That poem is dedicated to Agrarian Trust, and the Somali Bantu Community Association. Thank you, Dimitri and David, for all these wonderful poets who seem a part of this festival. I am grateful to also share in that.